So, Alex here has had an incredible amount of anger in his life. And yes, I'm talking from the third person, not because I'm AI yet, but because I like to keep things a little impersonal sometimes. I mean, there's a big difference between saying, I am angry versus there is anger here, right? And this is where the alchemy starts. Regardless, we'll switch it up a little. Why not, eh? Because Alex here is also British, apparently. And I mean, I was born and lived there for many years, but according to others, I'm losing my British accent a little bit. So I better start talking like this and start sipping on a bottle of water so I can get my unearned charisma back and prove I'm not AI at the same time, innit? Regardless, I don't know what the collective trauma must have been exactly, but for a lot of my life, I noticed how England, especially London, can seem to be an extremely angry place. Although I love London, having spent a long time there as a youth, getting lost in industrial estates in the middle of the night, trying to find an illegal rave, unbridled rage and defiance is still what characterizes part of it in my mind a little bit sometimes. I mean, I love the passion and the energy, and when people stand up for what's just. But when it gets personal, as it always almost is, the anger seems to be more destructive rather than helpful. Rather than changing anyone's minds, it's this personal anger that often solidifies everyone into their mental positions even more, perpetuating conflict rather than solving any problems. Because it's one of the more pernicious emotions, right? With fear and anxiety, yes, often we can't seem to see the woods through the trees and truly believe the scary stories in our mind. But also, it's quite common to be able to tell fairly easily, in the back of our minds at least, that maybe we're overblowing things, despite what we feel. Anger, however, gets into the mind a lot more subtly. It's even more tempting to fully identify with the thoughts that it produces. And I get it because it can feel like there's a real injustice going on here. There's a real oppressor here. These boundaries are being crossed, and this injustice is being perpetuated, and I need to feel angry about it. Because, of course, sometimes these things are relatively true. It can feel like it's giving you the energy, the courage to do something about it, to take some perhaps long overdue justified action. But it's one of those feelings that can easily turn into dysfunctional action. The temptation to identify with the thoughts, spit out that verbal poison, throw that thing across the room, or even worse, can feel extremely strong. Believe me, I've felt it many times and said and done some not so loving things. It's one of those feelings that can trigger and reach an extreme intensity in milliseconds. 1 minute, you feel all happy and calm, and yet it only takes one word out of someone's mouth, and adrenaline and heart rate is peaking, and those thoughts are whirling around like a hurricane, with the extreme temptation to say and do that thing that even in the back of your mind you might feel you'll probably regret. And yet, we must take 100% responsibility because we're still consenting to it. We mustn't give away our power. We mustn't forget that truly it doesn't have any power over our minds, and instead, we can allow it to flow without turning into hate. We can allow it to flow through the body, alchemize it, and release it. Something beyond personal anger and conflict can get the job done. But I get it. Over here, there's been the most extreme forms of anger and rage. Anger at people for being so stupid. Anger at myself for being so stupid. Anger at not getting what I want. Anger at people not doing what I want. Anger at trying so hard and yet not being able to create the results. Anger at apparently not being taught the things that I felt I should have been taught. Anger at the seemingly endless foolishness and stupidity in the world that might eventually destroy it. And then anger at feeling so angry. And yet, am I so perfect? Can I really talk? With my own habits that would surely reveal themselves if I was just honest and investigated my own behavior a little? So much anger. And yet, without all of these added layers of story and personhood, just anger, just pure, raw feeling in the body, heat, energy, and just breathe. This might sound crazy to say and super abrasive to everything that seems reasonable, but what you feel angry at other apparent people for, on the deepest level, on the ultimate level, is also anger at yourself. I had to look inside and see that it was all coming from within me. If, when I was truly honest with myself, some of the anger I could see was actually irrational, then was there a chance that all of it could be? Was there a chance that there was something deeper to this? And that there is another way to get the job done, another way to stand up for injustice and what's right, another way to protect myself and protect the innocent without all of this unbridled anger? Is there a chance that there's something deeper about how the universe works? And with all of this contracted anger, it doesn't really serve anything. Is there a way to let the energy flow and do the right thing without holding on to this rage that eventually causes chronic stress, disease, decay, and early death? I say that when we look at the message of awakening and embodiment and emotional releasing, there is. And on the other side of releasing the anger and transmuting it into love, one can be even more powerful. The first important thing to understand about anger is that it arises primarily as a bodily sensation. This means that the primary component is sensation, a feeling of contraction, heat, pulsating energy. It's visceral. The thoughts are secondary. So, can you, for a moment, think about or imagine something that triggers that little bit of stress and anger? And just for a moment, look past the story about it and instead simply feel the raw, physically felt sensations appearing to come from the body area. Instead of identifying with the story around it, simply feel the energy, allowing it to be there, and breathe. Yes, the story may or may not have some relative relevance. Perhaps there is a genuine injustice. Perhaps a boundary is genuinely being crossed. And it might feel like all of those thoughts are screaming for your attention. But what if all of that can be dealt with intelligently whilst we try something different for a moment and just be and feel? Can you notice that what you essentially are is this awareness in which everything is appearing, including this cluster of sensations? This anger energy can be here, vividly present, stirring, pulsating, and yet, if we remove absolutely all of the labels of even energy, heat, or even anger, it's just pure, raw sensation. It just is. Can you notice, without identifying with the story around it for a moment, that you can actually welcome the feeling? Not by trying to force it out or by punching a pillow or something, but by simply being aware, staying consciously aware, feeling it, and being in that spirit of welcoming. It sounds counterintuitive, but as you notice that on the relative level, it might feel overwhelming sometimes, especially if triggered to the max intensity in an instant, but it can never truly overwhelm the real you. this awareness. There's always some space around it. There's always formlessness underneath it. There's always silence behind it. It's just energy. Just feel it and breathe. And even if the thoughts are screaming, listen to me, you absolutely must say or do this thing right now, can you just park that for a moment and trust that a more intelligent and loving solution is available on the other side of this rage? After all, if that action or that thing that feels it just must be said is so important, it will be just as important in 10 minutes' time, in an hour's time, or tomorrow. Yes, it might feel like that anger is making you realize something, and that something may be relatively important. And of course, if you're physically in danger or something, it may be important to use that energy to defend yourself or get the hell out of there right now. But a lot of the time, this anger is echoes of the past talking. There's a feeling threatened, genuinely threatened, when the threat is no longer present or it never really was to begin with. The mind is acting like you're just about to get eaten by a lion, thrown out of the tribe, or have everything taken away from you, and yet nothing on that scale is truly happening. It's a feeling when the ultimate reality is you are safe, you are imperturbable. It's emotional conditioning and suppression from adverse childhood experiences or previously locked up emotional energy passed down through the generations. But you're going to break the chain. You're going to break the generational trauma and alchemize this into something more powerful than you could ever imagine. Because the way out of anger isn't to suppress, ignore it, brush over it with forced love or positive thinking. It's to be with it, feel it, and counterintuitively let it flow without personally identifying with the story around it. I like to say stay impersonal, which means don't simply believe that you are a person feeling this anger in conflict with the other and the world. Feel the anger, but don't personalize it. Take action if required. Do that thing to protect yourself and others if it's truly relevant, but be not the doer. Zoom out from complete story identification. Stay aware that you're aware and be this beingness. Don't simply make it about us and them. Just feel the energy, let it flow, and breathe. This is true groundedness. If you relax your attention for long enough, if you stay aware of yourself as this whole space of awareness for long enough, whilst the energy flows, something magical will eventually happen. True wisdom about the situation will eventually emerge. The apparent problem will either just vaporize, or a super intelligent way to affect positive change will emerge. If you relax your attention for long enough, if you stay aware of yourself as this whole space of awareness for long enough, whilst the energy flows, something magical will eventually happen. True wisdom about the situation will emerge. The apparent problem will just either vaporize, or a super intelligent way to affect positive change will emerge from your inner stillness and poise. If it appears to grab you again and you end up going along with it for a little bit again, don't judge yourself or beat yourself up for being caught by it again. Admit to yourself that you were never truly grabbed and you consented to it. And something different can happen next time. Even if it's appeared to rear its ugly head yet again, notice if it's weakening slightly. Notice if it peaks and subsides a little bit softer and a little bit shorter. And these are signs that, through staying aware and releasing the feelings, it's gradually dissolving and you'll soon be free of it. After a short while of simply being with it, And feeling it, it might eventually turn into another emotion, perhaps guilt, fear, grief, or even crying. These are actually good signs that it's moving and transmuting. And if you're crying, that can be a great and profound release. That can be the dissolving of what has been eating your body up from the inside out for decades. Cry it out. Let it go. Notice yourself as this aware space that isn't holding on to it to begin with. Because you rest as this basic space, you notice that it can never truly touch you. It's energy moving through, and the real you is this awareness, imperturbable. Eventually, it will turn into relief, peace, and love. Peace and love that was always here to begin with, just temporarily covered by the storm clouds of rage, but it was never truly you. It was just conditioning. Locked up emotional energy that's now releasing and alchemizing, leaving a huge space for true intelligence and true wisdom to flow into. So make it your number one, your numero uno, to stay awake and aware, to release all of the fear, the anger, the anxiety until it leaves. And then you are left simply being, as you always are, yet being, clear and open, poised and ready, ready to flow and let the true passion pour out of you so that all of your loved ones and the entire world can benefit from who you truly are, peace and love. If it appears this video helped you and you're ready to go all the way with releasing the contractions and living as your true nature, I'd love to see you in my platform, Awake and Embodied. It's not for those who are just looking for a quick fix to feel a bit better until they're on to the next distraction. It's for those who are truly committed to awakening and embodiment. For more info, follow the link in the description. See you there. Peace.